The clang of the heavy steel door echoed in the sterile white chamber, reverberating off the cold, unfeeling walls. It was a sound that signaled the end of freedom and the beginning of an uncertain journey. It sealed the fate of 5 souls, each one now trapped in this iron cage, their futures as uncertain as the experiment they were about to endure. 5 prisoners of war, their faces etched with a mixture of apprehension and reluctant hope. They had been through hell and back, and now they faced yet another. They were promised freedom in exchange for participation in a simple experiment. The terms seemed straightforward, but the reality was far more complex. 30 days of sleep deprivation. The room was Spartan, devoid of any comfort or warmth. It was a place designed to break the spirit as much as the body. A table piled high with books, a cruel reminder of the knowledge they could no longer access freely. These books were their only companions in the isolation. A sink with running water, a basic necessity that felt like a luxury in this barren environment. A toilet in the corner, offering the bare minimum of privacy in a place where personal space was a distant memory. A single barred window looked out onto a hallway, the only connection to the outside world. It was a constant reminder of their captivity and the freedom that lay just beyond reach. The air hung heavy, thick with the metallic scent of fear and anticipation. Every breath they took was a reminder of the anxiety that permeated the room. The men, dressed in identical grey jumpsuits, eyed each other nervously. They were strangers, yet their shared predicament forged an unspoken bond. They were strangers, thrown together by circumstance. Each man wondered about the other's stories, their pasts, and what had led them to this point. Each man carried his own story of hardship and loss etched into the lines on their faces. These were not just prisoners, they were survivors, each with a tale of endurance and resilience. This experiment, they were told, was a small price to pay for freedom. The promise of release was a powerful motivator, but it came with a heavy burden. But the air held a silent terror, a premonition of something sinister lurking beneath the surface. The men could sense it, an unspoken dread that gnawed at their resolve. They knew that this was not just a test of endurance, but a battle for their very souls. As the days turned into nights, sleep became a distant memory. They lay on thin mattresses, staring at the ceiling, their minds racing with thoughts of what was to come. Time seemed to stretch endlessly, each tick of the clock a reminder of the relentless march towards the unknown. The experiment was not just a test of their physical limits, but a psychological ordeal that pushed them to the brink. In the darkness, they whispered to each other, sharing their fears and hopes. These quiet conversations were a lifeline, a way to hold on to their humanity in the face of overwhelming odds. One man gripped a book tightly, his knuckles white with tension. It was a small act of defiance, a way to assert control in a situation where they had none. Restlessness set in, and they began to pace the room, their agitation growing with each passing hour. The walls seemed to close in on them, the iron cage becoming a prison of the mind as well as the body. Yet amidst the fear, there was a flicker of determination. They had survived so much already, and they would face this challenge with the same resilience that had carried them through their darkest days. Slowly, a sense of camaraderie began to grow. They sat together, forming a circle, drawing strength from each other. In this iron cage, they found a glimmer of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest times, the human spirit can endure. Days turned into an agonizing blur. The air grew thick with the stench of stale sweat and unwashed bodies. The prisoners, their initial bravado replaced by a quiet desperation, paced the confines of their cell like caged animals. The silence was broken only by the rustling of pages as they pretended to read, or the occasional muffled sob. The promised freedom seemed a distant dream, a cruel joke in the face of their growing torment. Their eyes, bloodshot and glazed over, reflected the bleakness of their situation. Hope, once a flickering candle in the darkness, was slowly being extinguished. The weight of sleeplessness pressed down on them, crushing their spirits. Simple tasks became monumental efforts. Conversations dwindled into incoherent mumbles. The men, once individuals with hopes and dreams, were reduced to mere subjects, lab rats, trapped in a cruel and twisted experiment. The gas, odorless and insidious, seeped into the chamber through hidden vents. It was a silent invader, creeping into every corner, every crevice, unnoticed by those it sought to torment. It was a cocktail designed to keep them awake, to push the boundaries of human endurance. This was no ordinary gas. It was a meticulously crafted blend of chemicals, each chosen for its ability to disrupt the natural sleep cycle. At first, it manifested as a subtle buzz, a tingling sensation that kept sleep at bay. The prisoners felt a strange energy coursing through their veins, an artificial alertness that seemed almost beneficial. But as days bled into nights, the effects grew more pronounced. The initial buzz turned into a relentless hum, a constant reminder of their inability to rest. The prisoners became increasingly agitated, their movements jerky and uncoordinated. Simple tasks became Herculean efforts, their bodies rebelling against the lack of sleep. Their laughter, once a source of comfort, morphed into something unsettling, bordering on hysteria. It echoed through the chamber, a haunting reminder of their deteriorating sanity. Their minds, starved of sleep, began to unravel at the edges. Thoughts became fragmented, memories blurred, and reality itself seemed to distort.
Did you hear that? Someone's trying to drive us mad. The whispers in the dark, the creaks and groans of the chamber, all seemed amplified, feeding their growing paranoia.
I can't take it anymore. This gas, it's driving me insane. The constant pressure, the unending wakefulness, it was more than they could bear.
You're all plotting against me. I know it. The gas had done its work, turning allies into enemies, trust into suspicion.
Whispers turned into shouts, accusations flew like daggers, each one cutting deeper than the last. Paranoia seeping into their interactions. Every glance, every word was scrutinized, twisted into something sinister. They accused each other of stealing food, of hoarding supplies, each convinced that the others were out to get them, of plotting against one another. The chamber, once a place of shared suffering, had become a battleground of mistrust. Trust, once a fragile bond forged in their shared misfortune, shattered into a million pieces. The gas had not only robbed them of sleep, but also of their humanity. The gas, their invisible tormentor, tightened its grip. It was a relentless force, an unseen enemy that gnawed at their sanity, leaving them in a perpetual state of fear and confusion. Time lost all meaning. Hours felt like days, days like weeks. The relentless march of time, unmarked by the natural rhythms of sleep, became another form of torture. Their eyes, once bright with hope, now stared blankly, dark circles a testament to their endless wakefulness. The gas had stripped them of their dreams, their rest, their very essence. Despair settled in, a heavy blanket that smothered any remaining hope. The sleepless curse had taken its toll, leaving them broken both in body and spirit. Section 4. The walls close in. The room, once a sanctuary from the horrors of war, transformed into a claustrophobic nightmare. The walls seemed to close in, pulsating with an unseen life of their own. The air grew heavy, thick with unspoken fear and the stench of their collective despair. The men, their faces gaunt and pale, resembled ghosts haunting their own waking nightmare. The books, once a source of distraction, lay scattered and forgotten, their pages stained with sweat and tears.
The world outside, with its promise of sunshine and freedom, seemed impossibly distant. The window, their only connection to reality, mocked them with its unattainable view. We were trapped, both physically and mentally, in a prison of our own making, a prison from which there was no escape.
Section 5. Descent into Madness. This chapter delves into the harrowing journey of the human psyche as it crumbles under relentless pressure. It is a tale of how the mind, once a fortress of reason and sanity, can become a labyrinth of fear and chaos. The first crack in their facade of sanity appeared on day 10. It was subtle at first, a mere flicker of doubt in their eyes, but it quickly grew into something far more sinister. The prisoner, a burly man who had once boasted of his iron will, began to unravel. His confidence, once unshakable, started to wane. He would pace the room, muttering to himself, his eyes darting around as if seeing things that weren't there. His laughter, once a booming sound that filled the room, devolved into a high-pitched giggle that sent chills down the spines of the others. It was a sound that spoke of a mind teetering on the edge, a sound that made the hairs on the back of their necks stand on end. He saw things, horrifying things, in the patterns of the peeling paint on the walls, faces twisted in agony, eyes that seemed to follow him wherever he went. These hallucinations became his reality, a nightmarish world from which there was no escape.
He spoke to invisible companions, his voice a low, frantic whisper. He would have entire conversations with these figments of his imagination, pleading with them, arguing with them, as if they were real. The others, their own grip on reality weakening, watched in horrified fascination. They could see the same fate awaiting them, a slow descent into madness that they were powerless to stop.
His breakdown was a harbinger of the chaos to come. It was the first domino to fall, setting off a chain reaction that would engulf them all. The other prisoners, their minds pushed to the brink, followed suit. One by one, they succumbed to the madness, their screams and sobs echoing through the halls. The room descended into a cacophony of screams, sobs, and incoherent ramblings. It was a symphony of despair, a testament to the fragility of the human mind. The experiment, designed to test the limits of human endurance, had unleashed something far more sinister. The raw, primal fear that lurks beneath the surface of every human mind. It was a fear that stripped away the veneer of civilization, revealing the darkness that lies within us all. This was not just a test of endurance, it was a journey into the very heart of human darkness, a descent into madness from which there was no return. Section 6. The monster within. The gas, their constant companion, had become a malevolent entity, twisting their perceptions, amplifying their fears. It whispered to them in the dead of night, weaving elaborate hallucinations that blurred the line between reality and nightmare. They saw spiders crawling from the walls, their eyes glowing with an eerie light. They felt phantom touches, icy fingers tracing patterns on their skin.
The room echoed with the sounds of our worst nightmares. The screams of fallen comrades, the cries of children, the whispered threats of unseen tormentors.
The gas had awakened something dark and primal within them, stripping away years of civilization and exposing the raw, animalistic core that lay beneath.
We were no longer men, but creatures driven by fear and paranoia, our humanity slowly being eroded by the insidious gas.